Hi, I'm Dave Hamilton, Director of Operations of the Advanced Energy Center. On our show today, we'll be exploring energy, both the energy that we require to stay alive and the energy that it takes to become stars in our fields of work. So let's get right to it. My guest today is Tinia Pina. She's the CEO of Renewable, who's an incubator company within our Clean Energy Business Incubator Program. So, Tinia, welcome.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you for being here.
Yeah, of course.
I've come to know you, I think, pretty well over the last couple of years. You are a remarkable leader and a remarkable businesswoman. I've always been impressed by all of your skills. So the audience doesn't know who you are, though. So why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and what drove you to start Renewable? Because I know it wasn't strictly a business decision in the beginning. So can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, I can appreciate that. So I majored in business information technology at Virginia Tech in 2006, literally the day after I moved to New York. Worked in financial services for roughly 7 years. And it was my last year before leaving and going back to Virginia before I launched Renewable that I had this experience where on my volunteer days outside of work, I was prep SAT teacher with New York Cares. It's a volunteer program throughout the city. And I just saw the program that I was leading, how the kids, what they were eating for an 8 in the morning till 3 p.m. on Saturday morning sessions, what they were eating, how it was really impacting the level of intention, what they were able to retain, and then therefore how productive they were. So I thought long term, really access to nutrition really impacts our alertness and impacts us on a long-term level. And also combining with the fact that I knew that New York City at the time was spending $77 million to export food waste to China, Pennsylvania, Virginia, I figured that there's two really unique and only going to be expanding opportunities to resolve two things for cities. One is to allow for modular, inexpensive ways to process food waste to enable for more farms to grow organically with that food waste. And the second thing is to help cities really capture this growing waste stream and use it in an effective way that could be used for more regenerative or sustainable agriculture.
And so you took that vision and you turned it into Renewable.
Exactly.
So talk about Renewable. Tell us what it is and what your hopes and dreams are for that.
Yeah, I mean, your team has definitely seen us evolve over the few last years. What we do at our core is we take unrecoverable produce waste from food distributors and food processors, and anything that can't go to farms or to food banks, we take that residual, we pelletize it within 24 hours, and we turn it into a component of our system that allows indoor farms or farms that grow in controlled environments, so think of greenhouses also, to be able to grow using organic inputs. And the reason why that's always been a prevalent challenge for them is because a lot of times either manure-based or anything from a organic source couldn't compete in terms of performance and price with the synthetic alternative. And the other thing is a lot of times it promoted sometimes mold blooms, which create a food safety risk. So we're providing a cost competitive substitute to the industry standard that in the larger scheme, especially with climate change being such a concern right now, it's a localized waste stream that can serve as a viable substitute for the industry standard.
Great. So when you arrived at CBIP, you came on, you had a detailed plan, you had some sales already, you had lofty goals and aspirations for your company. Had a couple bumps along the way, as all startups do. Sure. But how has CBIP, and you're also part of MCOR, how have the programs in our ecosystem from an economic development perspective, how have they helped you? I'm assuming we have in some shape or form, all of us together. But talk us through that a little bit, how these programs have helped you.
Well, I think CBIP created a great precedent to create a substantial amount of structure. And I think with manufacturers, which is our core of what we do, we don't provide a service and we don't just provide a product, but we have to be efficient with creating a scalable manufacturing process. And there's very little room for margin of error because a lot of your resources, financially being, are going into your facility space and your equipment, right? So you need to make sure that you have a lot of working capital, or at least a little bit, to sustain the people that are going to operate it. And with CBIP, the board really helped us think about some of those things related to work in progress costs and direct costs that we didn't quite have with accelerators in the past. And then when MCOR came on board, it was an additional layer of really helping us stick to and create accountability and a calibration with the MRL, which is a manufacturing readiness level. So I think using that tool with both ecosystem providers, you and MCOR, amongst others throughout New York State, has made the all the resources more rigorous and put renewable, which has been incredibly bootstrapped, as you know, very resilient, but at the same time, like super lean. And we had this very well-planned path if it weren't for partners such as yours.
Well, we were able to help,
Yeah.
and you've used the resources, which is always a plus.
Exploited to the T.
I have no problem with that. That's what we're there for. Let's talk business theory for a second.
Sure.
So there's a concept of customer discovery, which is understanding your customer, your potential customer, your existing customer, your strategic partners. What is customer discovery to you, and how has Renewable used that concept, whether you've called it that or not? What are your thoughts on that concept?
Yeah, it was incredibly iterative. So when we first started off, before we joined CBIP, we did a Indiegogo campaign, so crowdfunding, and that was really our true customer discovery launch. So the first $10,000 allowed us to market test if this was truly a need and there was market pull for what we were doing. So the very first product, as you know, which was liquid, completely different in process, completely different in product type, allowed us to have substantive conversations to see what price point customers or these farms, specifically being specialty crop farmers that grow indoors, would be willing to pay for. Why would they be willing to switch? What are the costs to switch? All these really important parameters to help us understand if we had something that people are willing to pay for. And then as we evolved, the customer discovery process evolved in one in which, where was their threshold of being willing to buy a product within a certain proximity of other competing products, and what really would allow them to commit to a 3-year product purchase agreement. So those types of tools allowed us to not only confirm something that was of value today, but in the long term, and especially with our investors, if it was something that had long-term meaningful impact.
Sure. So to that point, you did a lot of customer discovery that helped move you forward, and you've been constantly doing it. But you've pivoted.
Yeah.
You had a pretty hard pivot in what your product was going to look like and what your tech was. That pivot has helped you raise some funds, helped you get a location in Rochester. Congratulations on that.
Thank you.
Talk to us about the decision process for that pivot. What brought you to that point? What convinced you to make that pivot? And basically what made you take that leap to go in a different direction than you were looking to go originally?
Yeah, I'll kind of attack it personal and professional. So personal, even when we had the liquid product, the pivot being from product type only, right? Not business model. I had a discomfort in my gut where it's just like, the product works for, let's say, a 500 square foot farm that's in the city, very modular, cute, works for restaurants, but it wouldn't really scale to like a 100,000 square foot farm, right? Because we knew that there was a lot of product improvement in order to get it to a scalable product that could meet the entire market. So that being said, I knowing that there was going to be some commercialization challenges, and the fact that the IP from a process perspective was very challenging to get, that really gave strong signals to pivot.
Right. And since then, you guys are moving on down the path that you're comfortable with.
Exactly.
So now you're in the manufacturing stage, you're getting ready to start ramping up, you're starting to build your plant. How do you balance the wants and needs, let's say, of your technical staff who may want to develop the perfect machine and the perfect system to get that extra 0.01% efficiency out of your system, or higher gain out of the fertilizer, versus you got to get a product to market? How do you balance that? How do you make that decision when it's time to have your minimum viable product and you're just going to go out there?
And we're still going through that balancing, right?
Yes,
It's an everyday tug of war. And so really you just have to kind of regroup everyone and say, okay, we can meet this milestone in like 2 weeks if we just keep the current version as it is, and any other additional tweaks or features for a design perspective, not functionality or utility, let's revisit that after we've already locked in these number of customers that can get us to this sales goal. So if we just try to get everyone back to the same goal and remind them that we're so close, that usually is what helps.
Yeah, well, that's important. So I want to switch gears a little bit.
Sure.
We're wrapping up and we're running out of time, but I want to touch base on a topic that I know is important to you. The challenges faced by minority entrepreneurs, women entrepreneurs, in your case, a woman of color entrepreneur. Can you talk about your experiences in that? Have there been challenges, and how have you handled and addressed that?
Yeah, I mean, I think the only direct is maybe the presumption I get sometimes from investors that question my not realizing I'm the CEO and founder. That's probably the first facing one. The second one is I know that the level of risk tolerance and maybe trust with usability of the use of funds is not as high as those for, let's say, with other people that look like them or similar to them. So, and I think that's just familiarity. I mean, it has made it, as you know, we've had to be incredibly resourceful with grants, right? We've been very aggressive on grants, very aggressive on pitch competitions and anything that would not require us to fundraise. We've had to leverage more debt than I ever wanted to. But at the same time, we've been very lean and our cap table incredibly simple because of that. So there's always a plus and a disadvantage of that. I think the woman of color has been helpful in terms of raising awareness and also, you know, it's definitely serving as aspiration for others to be more resilient, but it's certainly not an easy feat, but I don't allow that to be the leading character in terms of who I am.
Sure. And I'll tell you this, I've seen you in action, I've seen other entrepreneurs and companies in action, and you go right at it, you do what you need to do, your planning and the way you move forward is an inspirational. So,
Thank you.
So keep that up. So to wrap it up,
Sure.
again, I've seen Renewable grow, I've seen where you are, I've seen where I think you're going. What are your thoughts? Are you happy with the way things have gone so far? Are you happy where you think your next 6 months are going to go? And where do you think you're going to be a year from now?
I am. I mean, I never would have thought it would take this long, but I also see the blessing behind that because we really didn't waste money. We didn't have we weren't fortunate to waste money with, right? So I think that allowed us to be much more astute or shrewd is the right word with how we spend money. Most people on the team part-time are just doing sweat equity as a partner for a long time. So us moving forward with that is we have a very clear and clean plan of how to kind of take a very light team, but making sure that they're incredibly happy with the benefits and what they want to see as the right type of company they want to work for because they're so passionate about what we're doing, and scale with our core needs by not just investing in people to grow, but investing in people to help us get it to the right place. So it's not fueling money at the fire, but it's doing it with a very rational mindset.
Great. So with that, Tinia, thank you very much. Looking
Anytime.
forward to working with you moving forward. I'm Dave Hamilton. This has been Energy. Thank you very much.
Sounds good.
Yeah.